I'm actually wearing lipstick today. I'm so proud of myself. Hi everyone. I got a request from a lovely lady on one of my other social medias, and she really wanted to know more about color mixing, specifically for portrait painting. However, I think it's really important to get the basics of color mixing down before portrait painting. Hence this beginner video, and I mean absolute beginner. When I started, I found books to help me learn color theory. This one is a good one with an interesting title, Blue and Yellow Don't Make Green. This book really breaks down colors and the color wheel and even gives you some good mixing exercises to follow. It's an old book, but a good one. Speaking of color wheels, I think it's a good idea to have an actual color wheel, or at least access to a digital version like on your phone or on your computer, especially when you're starting out. I don't use my color wheel as much now, but every now and then I do refer to it. So let's get to it. Like I said, this is a beginner video and I'll try my best to cover what I know, and then the next video will cover skin tone mixing specifically for portraits. So subscribe so that you can be notified when that video becomes available. First off, know the primary colors. They are blue, yellow, and red. These colors cannot be mixed from any other colors. They just are. From these come all the other colors. Many artists start with just the primaries, but there is definitely no problem if you want to go ahead and grab other colors. But for the sake of this video, if we only have these primary colors, we need to mix to get the other colors. So how do we do that? Let's take blue and yellow for example. Of course, mixed together they make green, right? Well, depends on which blue you mix into the yellow. Let's see why. I have two blues here, ultramarine and phthalo blue. We'll mix phthalo blue and yellow together. When we do that, we get a nice brilliant green. But what happens when we mix ultramarine and yellow together? We get a pretty green, but it's very much muted, not as brilliant. Why the difference? Because phthalo blue has green undertones to it, and ultramarine has purple undertones. More on this later. Why is this good to know? Whenever you need a bright green, you won't reach for ultramarine blue. You'll reach for phthalo blue. So why have a muted green anyway? Well, one reason is if you're trying to paint realistically, you'll notice that colors in nature are not super bright. They're much more dull than we think. So many artists will use ultramarine blue when doing landscapes and even skin tones. It's also good to know the undertones of a color for adjusting the intensity of other colors. We'll talk about that later. Once we have a specific green, we can use yellow to create other colors by adding a little at a time. We can also create pastel greens by adding white. Notice that yellow brightens the greens while white lightens but dulls the color. You can also do the same with black. When you add white to a color, it's called a tint, and when you add black, it's called a shade. So now you can create all kinds of green colors. Let's jump to red. There's a similar situation with the reds. Cadmium red tends to have an orange undertone to it, so when mixed with yellow, you get nice oranges. While quinacridone red has purple undertone to it, so when mixed with yellow, you get oranges but not as bright. Quinacridone is a good red to mix with ultramarine blue if you want to get a nice purple color, because both quinacridone and ultramarine have purple undertones. Get it? Adding a little more yellow, blue, white, or black to your reds will give you different hues, tints, and shades. A note with the reds though. We may be tempted to brighten reds with a little bit of white, but if we do that, we'll get pink. So if we want a brighter red, mix more yellow with a little bit of white to brighten it. I haven't said much about yellow, but there are definitely other yellows out there. Personally, I use medium yellows, or for my portraits, yellow oxide or yellow ochre, and nothing else really. But the same concept applies when mixing with other colors in white and black. So that's mixing primary colors. When you mix all three primary colors together in equal parts, they cancel each other out, and you get a brown color, which is good for skin tones. Once you get primary colors down, it's time to consider complementary colors. And this is where, in my opinion, color mixing is golden and highly useful. If we look at the color wheel, we see our primary colors, and we also see the colors they create. Complementary colors are colors opposite each other on the color wheel, and they can be mixed together too. This is usually done to tone down a color's intensity. For example, if I have a red color and I just need the color a little less red, it's a little too bright, we need to tone it down a little bit, I'll add its complementary color, which is green according to the color wheel. This will produce a toned down red. The more green you add, the less red you get. So just add a little bit at a time. This way you can get subtle color changes without having to add black, which can be a bit harsh on a color. Understanding how complementary colors worked really helped me when I started painting. If I had a color that was just a little too much on the blue side, I know to add a little orange. Or just a bit too purple, I know to add a little yellow just by looking at the color wheel. And this is how you tweak and find the colors you need when painting. Of course, you could just get the tubes of colors already mixed and get started. But I think mixing is important to understand and is definitely part of the fun. This is definitely not everything when it comes to color mixing, but it's a good start. All of this knowledge comes in handy when it comes to painting portraits, which will be my next video. So don't forget to subscribe, and I'll catch you then.